Hi everybody, Cam Sweet here from the Garage Connection and Central Digger Supply, coming to you today with a video about one of the most contested skid steers or mini skid steers that's been offered for sale, the CRT23 or its cousin, the CBT23. So what we're going to do, we're going to go over a few features of this machine, what makes it different than most of the other ones that are out there, and some of the drawbacks that this machine has kind of become known for. So stay tuned for more. So the CRT first came to market from AGT, and it was offered as a more premium mini skid steer compared to the like the KTT23 or the YF380 or whatever they call it. And you would see these machines pop up every once in a while at auction. You could buy them directly from AGT, but usually when they came up at auction, they sold for 20 to 30% more than the other versions of the machines. And there's a big reason for that. And most of that reason has to do with the track setup and the pumps. So we're going to talk about that right now. The track setup on this machine is significantly different than really any other mini skid steer in kind of this weight category, and most of that has to do with the large wheels at the front and back. So this unit is obviously a high motor model or a high track model, so all the drive components are located behind this sprocket right here. But where this unit differs is, again, that front and rear idler wheel is significantly bigger, and instead of having just a single rib around the outside like 90% of the machines on the back idler, this one has the double rib, so it goes on the outside of the teeth as opposed to the inside of the teeth. Now, when this first came out, it was hailed as a pretty much a game changer as far as these machines go, because of the sprocket failures and the idler wheel failures, and this really it sought to deal away with that. But unfortunately, what we've found out as time has gone on is that, yes, they're better because they're bigger. However, this model, if you notice, there's no plate on this side of the machine that grabs the outside of these idler wheels. So they're mounted in what you would call like a single shear configuration. And so under heavy use or very, very strenuous operations, or just over time, what they've found is that the spindles that these wheels ride on are not up to the task of dealing with all the stress that's put on them. And what they'll do is they'll bend, and you'll notice that the tracks will sort of tip in at the top like a ricer or something like that. So, it suddenly turns into a Honda Civic. And that's a pain. You can't source the components anywhere. They're very hard to find. So what most people have to do is actually seek out a machine shop and manufacture new spindles out of a significantly harder material to try to counteract the force that's applied to them. The other thing that through the course of time people have noticed is that the inside surfaces of these wheels are extremely sharp, and from the factory, they didn't really do anything about it. And what it does is it causes the inside surface to actually bite into and really wear the teeth on the belts that these things come with. So what people have done to solve that is they'll either jack the machine up or whatever you got to do, or pop a track off, and they have to actually put a chamfer around the inside of the grooves to counteract that belt wear. So is that a deal breaker? Not really. I mean, that's, what, an hour of work, you got yourself figured out. The bending spindles, admittedly, that's kind of a pain. So this is where it differs the most from many of these other skid steers that are out on the market. The next place that this machine tries to set itself apart from, again, 90% of the other ones out there is in its pump configuration. So normally on these machines, you have two hydraulic pumps. One of them does the left stick and the loader arm, and the other one does the right stick and the bucket curl, and that's it. So if you want to do any operation, you can't do two at once. So you can't drive forward and curl the bucket at the same time if it's on the same stick. Additionally, Both of those hydraulic pumps, when they leave the directional control valves, they go to the auxiliary hydraulic circuit, and they are responsible for providing flow to that auxiliary circuit. So you can't do two functions at once with an attachment on. So if you were trying to run a snow blower or a weed whacker or brush cutter, things of that nature, flail mower, you can't do it because you're asking too much of the pumps, and you definitely cannot move and use the attachment at the same time. So this machine solves that issue with the addition of a third hydraulic pump. And that pump's only job is to run the auxiliary hydraulic circuit. So in theory, you could move forward and run a flail mower at the same time. One movement is not going to disturb the operation of another. And this is where we saw these machines getting sold for big money, because they were advertised with a triple pump, and that's a very nice feature. And it is absolutely a reason to consider purchasing this machine. The other reason why people sought out these machines as opposed to the other ones is, if you notice, we have two sets of auxiliary hydraulic attachments on this machine. Now that's weird, right? Because we've got one aux hydraulic pump. You'd think you only have one set of aux hookups, but this machine is very clever in what they chose to do with the arrangement of the joysticks up top and how that relates to these down here. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So what they chose to do with this particular unit, instead of having a single joystick on each side and a forward, back, left, right movement, they decided to separate it into only forward and back movements of the joystick. And how this relates to the machine is the inside levers here and here are used for your track travel. And then the outside levers, this one happens to be the lift and this one happens to be the bucket curl, right? We've got the two center levers here. Now normally on the entry-level machines, that center lever, when you push it forward, sometimes they have a slot where you can kind of move it over and lock it in, or other times they don't, and you have to sit there and hold it the whole time, and that's annoying. So what this unit does is it has two separate auxiliary hydraulic circuits with a big difference between the two of them. If you look at this one right here, you see how the lever stays back? If I go to push it forward, it stays forward. It's because this one on the left is a continuous on auxiliary hydraulic circuit, and it has a little detent in the control valve. So that way, if you hypothetically were running a flail mower or a snow blower or a log splitter or whatever it is, and you want to keep the motion going, you click it forward and you never have to touch it again. Where on this side, this has a spring return directional control valve. So when you make a movement, it springs back to center. So this would be used for like a grapple hookup or something that you want to grab and just leave it there and not touch it again. And this is, again, a feature that this machine has that sets it above some of the other models that are being offered for sale out there. So looking beyond these major differences, is there anything else that this machine does a little bit differently that some of the other ones don't do? And the short answer to that is no, not really. It does have the 739cc Ratto engine. It has the fuel tank mounted below it. That's very, very standard. It comes with a hydraulic cooler. It comes with hydraulic filters. It comes with the little headlights and the horn and the fan and all that stuff, and a couple of USB power outlets. So, you know, beyond really the differences in the drive system and the hydraulic system, this machine is essentially identical to a KBT or KTT23 model from AGT. All right, now for a little bit of bad news in terms of this machine. Through the course of people using these machines and getting hours on them, we're starting to find some issues that are popping up that aren't necessarily easy fixes. The first one has to do with this cylinder attachment and really this whole crossbar. This unit here is just a C channel and it's flipped upside down. So essentially I can put my hand underneath here and it's boxed in, but it's like welded box. It's not actually one piece of tubing. They just took a C channel, they welded a plate on the bottom of it. This has been known to fatigue and break and really just kind of either twist the whole thing off or it breaks the welds, and people have had to fix this or upgrade it or whatever they had to do. So if you're looking for something that you're not going to have any issues with long term, just know that this is a known issue with these machines. The other problem with this machine, which is a very easy fix, but it is annoying, is the bucket that it comes with. So this bucket is hilariously small. Some of the single cylinder models come with a significantly larger bucket than this. And that's kind of silly. They really should have spec'd this machine with a bucket that at a minimum comes out to the outside of the tracks. I mean, right now there's probably 5 inches on either side of this bucket before you get to the end of the tracks. And with the strength and stability of this machine, that bucket, that's just a waste to have something that small on there. The other problem that people are running into, and it seems to be an issue more so with the engine than anything else, is the fact that this engine has a very difficult time pulling gasoline from the fuel tank up into the engine using the little vacuum pump that these engines come with. So if you're looking at one of these models, or really any model with a 739 Rado, just know that in the very near future, you're going to really have to consider putting an electric fuel pump in your machine. So overall, what do you think? Is it worth it to seek out one of these machines specifically, or is it worth it to just find a cheaper model that maybe doesn't have all the features you want, but you just buy it anyways? And if you have time to do what's needed to this machine, I feel that you would be rewarded by buying one. This reminds me a lot of like a 6-liter Power Stroke, where if you buy it not knowing that there's issues, you're in for a rude awakening. But if you buy it knowing that deep down it's really good and it just needs to be fixed the right way, do a couple things that, yes, it's annoying, I know, and it's time and money you don't want to spend, but I think if you put the work into this machine, it's absolutely worth owning one of these units as opposed to one of the entry-level ones. I have done things with this machine as far as lifting power capacities that I know cannot be rivaled by one of the entry-level mini skid steers. I lifted up a stump that I'd been fighting forever. This thing picked it up like it wasn't even there. I don't know if that has to do with weight, with the fact that the thing basically uses mini excavator tracks. They're like 7-8 inches wide compared to the little rubber bands that some of the other ones come with. But I knew what I was getting into when I bought it. I knew there was going to be issues, and I knew that there's things that you got to do to make it right. So hopefully this video helps you out in determining if one of these models is right for you. Pay very close attention to the exact specific machine that you purchase, because as of now, I know there are three different models. Just due diligence, make sure that it's the right model. Some of them have weird tracks, some of them have really weird tracks, other ones are flat track, and just that's my warning to you. So for now, that's going to do it. Camp Sweet here from the Garage Connection and Central Digger Supply, wishing everybody a fantastic 2025.